Hi, today I want to talk about using your smartphone to record YouTube videos. I think it's a great idea, but you need to be aware of certain things that you need to have in order to optimize your YouTube video recordings using your smartphone. Now I'm going to be comparing this smartphone, the LG G8X ThinQ, to my Sony a5000 using a 16mm f2.8 lens. So you can see the image right now. I'm looking at my Sony a5000, and then you can compare that to the LG G8X. Okay, see which one you prefer. Anyway, I think the LG G8X is an excellent option when you want to start out, especially if you have all these things that I'm going to be telling you. I think it's adequate to do YouTube videos on it, and a lot of people actually use their smartphone to do that. But let me show you what you need to optimize your YouTube video recording using your smartphone. Let's talk about it right now. Alright, so if you want to use your smartphone to record your YouTube videos, there's 5 things I would want to mention. Number 1 is make sure you have a good tripod stand. So you want something to clamp down your phone, like this one here. This is the LG5, and then what you want to do is you want to have this ball head rotator so that you can actually twist. Let me show you for a minute here, and you can see you can twist this around to adjust your camera, okay, your smartphone camera. So that's great to have. This one you probably can get around $5 to $6. And then of course you have a stand with a very solid base, allow you to sit your camera so that it doesn't move around that much. So that's very important to get something that is a tripod. This one I made myself, but you can get it online for under 15 bucks. I think even cheaper than that, but that's what you need first. Okay, the next thing you need, of course, is to get a good lighting system. Now you can see the light in my room is pretty bright. I have a lot of light at the back, and there's a front light shining on my face, and there's a monitor that's shining towards my face as well, so there's a light. Now if you're in a room that doesn't have that light, you might want to get one of these LED light, and it's shining your face so that you are able to give some front light into your face facing the camera, and doesn't cast too many shadows. And as you brighten the room, there's not going to be a lot of noise, they say background noise in your image. And the reason for that is that your camera on your smartphone has a very small sensor. Like if you compare it to my Sony a5000, for example, that's an APS-C sensor. It's like, I think 16 times or maybe even more than that, bigger than the sensor found in the smartphone, okay, like the LG G8X. And even LG G8X has a pretty good sensor size compared to a lot of other phones. So you can see that yeah, sensor is really important. Now with a smartphone, they have a better software technology and is able to enhance the image so it looks like better, but in reality is sensor size is very important as well. Even with my Sony a5000, you can see the difference. I mean, the Sony has 16mm f2.8. It's a bit wider than the one found on my smartphone. If I want to grade my image on my Sony a5000, I think it would be better than my G8X. So if you just set up properly, I don't think you need to color grade your image on your smartphone. I think this is good enough. All right, so we talked about the light, we talked about the tripod. What else do we need? Okay, so another thing that you need is the audio. The one thing I like about LG, they still have the audio jack input. That's very important. With Apple and Samsung, you don't have this mic input anymore. You have to buy a special adapter that put into the USBC or a lightning cable socket, and then you have that 3.5 millimeter jack. But again, I'm not sure how great those are, but I know that if you have a built-in 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and then you plug in your lavalier mic like the one I'm doing right now, I think the quality is amazing, okay? Especially on this LG G8X, I think the quality is very good. And so the video and audio is so important. In fact, I think the audio is more important than the video for smartphones. So even though your quality of your image may not be as great as the mirrorless camera, but if you have a good audio, I think that will compensate for that, okay? So as you can see here, I have a lavalier mic hooked up to my smartphone, just like this one here. I set up, as you can see here, and basically you plug that in and then you have Lavia mic. Now be careful with various smartphone because plugging in doesn't always work. So what you need to find out is the type of Lavia mic you have. For example, it has to be 3-ring type plug, as you can see here. The reason for that, the first 2 ring here is meant for audio headphone jack, and the other one is meant for mic jack. So this one would not work, okay? Even though it's the Lavia mic, but this one is built for smartphones. So just keep in mind about that, okay? Because this type of 3-ring plug will work for the smartphone, and this is known as the TRRS, whereas this one is known as TRS, okay? So you want a TRRS plug. Okay, so that's the audio. Audio is very important as well. Another thing is, you want to look for a smartphone that has a USBC connection, and the reason for that, you don't have to do it, but I think it's recommended. The reason for that is most of the smartphone has a very small storage capacity. For example, this phone has only 32 gig, but the available space is only 10 gig. So if I'm recording 4K, obviously this is not going to do it, right? It's going to use up within 20 minutes, okay, or 30 minutes. But if you have a way to transfer that video file to an SSD drive like this one here, that'd be awesome. Now if you have an SSD drive connected to your smartphone, I think there's an advantage to this, okay? I'll tell you in a minute. But for now, as you can see, if I connect it to my smartphone, I would have access to this SSD drive, and therefore I can transfer my video file to this SSD drive, and then I can delete the file in the phone, and then I have more space. The main advantage of having SSD drive is that once you copy into this SSD drive, you can then connect it to your laptop or desktop, and then you can then edit it in your desktop and laptop instantly, okay, once it's connected to the desktop and laptop. And the thing is, you want to work with your desktop and laptop because most likely your desktop and laptop has a very good microprocessor and a good graphic cards, right? And you can edit 4K no problem, and especially 1080p, you're gonna have it running through so smoothly. And then you can add different special effects and all these add-on texts and all that stuff, and it will still run very smoothly when you transcode it out and to a smaller file. So that's definitely an advantage when you can take this SSD and connect it to your computers. And lastly, I want to talk about is the file size. Ideally, a lot of people would say, okay, why don't you record in 4K on your smartphone and then you'll get a better quality. But I'll tell you right now, the difference between a 4K and 1080p on your smartphone is not that much. If you look at the quality, it may have more higher resolution, but in terms of image quality, is not that great. I would recommend you actually record in 1080p and then yeah, and go with that, because with 1080p it's 4 times less space than 4K, and the image quality isn't bad at all, especially for YouTube. Most of the people who watch on YouTube will like to watch it in 1080p and not 4K, because 4K takes a lot of bandwidth, and when they're watching on their smartphone, it's going to eat up their data plan, okay? It costs a lot of money. So yeah, if you record in 1080p, you're save memory storage in your smartphone, and so you can record a lot of it and then transfer it later to the SSD drive. And for editing on your desktop or laptop, using even a older model laptop, desktop, 1080p will be no problem either. The software that I use to edit my video file is DaVinci Resolve, and so it does require a lot of high spec desktop and laptop. But if I'm using 1080p video file, then I'll just need the i7 6th generation with mediocre graphic card, and I think it will still do a pretty good job. So there's 5 things if you want to record on your smartphone. So number 1, light. Number 2, tripod stand. Number 3, making sure you have a good audio input using Lavia mic. Number 4, make sure you have a small file using 1080p. I don't think you should use a smaller file less than 1080p. I don't think you should use a larger file like 4K. So 1080p is just right. And then of course, lastly is the ability to hook up to the USB-C drive. This is SSD drive, and that will allow you to transfer file in and out and edit on your computer, desktop or laptop. Okay, so those are 5 very important things that you should consider when you're recording on your smartphone. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.